Alright, today I'm going to show you how I'm going to use some compost tea to fertilize in my garden. So I have an Enviro Systems compost bin. It's a round bin, opens on the top, and then there's a little tray in the bottom, and there's actually holes in the bottom of this round bin that the liquid from the compost drains into. So then it collects in the bottom. So what I did was I took it off, dumped it into a 5-gallon pail, and I'll show you what else I did. Okay, so what I did was I took the compost tea from the bucket, and then I poured it through a strainer like this just to gather the thick stuff. I put it in here, dumped it into my pail. And then what I did was I had an old t-shirt which I've already thrown away. And I put that inside this colander and poured it into another pail. And then once that was done, I took a funnel and I poured it into just a 4-liter milk jug. So what I did now, once I've got that all strained out, I poured into one of these plant prod fertilizer kind of thing, and then put the lid on, and then I just emptied the entire thing on a bed. So I don't know exactly what the ratio is with the water to this compost tea, but I figure should be for sure at least a 10-to-1, so, or a 2-to-1 or whatever. So it should be a pretty good ratio. And the nice thing about compost tea is it's not just like one kind of nutrient, or like nitrogen and potassium or phosphorus or whatever. It's like a whole bunch of stuff. So it's going to be feeding your plant and feeding your soil and benefit it in the long run. So I did the same thing with the fish fertilizer that I made a few years ago, and I actually didn't think I had any, but I discovered some the other day. But the problem with fish fertilizer, it tends to have a lot more fine particles that were clogging up my end for the hose. So it actually looks like this. The top looks like this, so it draws the fertilizer through here, and then it sprays out of here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to strain it through a coffee filter. And I'll just get a new coffee filter because, yeah, it's kind of gross. So hopefully it's really fine. So hopefully it will take out more of the particles, so it will stop clogging it. That's the plan. Okay, so I got it filtered through the coffee filter. I actually ran it through twice, and I don't know if you can see, but there's actually little flecks of stuff in there. So that's what was clogging those little... There's a really tiny screen in the bottom of this jar, lid thing, whatever it's called. I don't know. Sprayer? Yeah. Anyways, so I'm going to set it up, and then I'll show you how I sprayed my bean patch. So I emptied about half of that container but I had already done some earlier. So basically the plan was to empty that one whole container in this bed. This bed of beans has been really struggling. I'm not exactly sure what the deal is. I think it's just been too dry, and I put compost and leaves on top, and I think it didn't break down enough throughout the winter. And so I've had issues with grasshoppers and different kinds of germination and stuff. So I'm hoping that this will kick this bed into high gear and we'll get some good production out of it. I did the same thing with this bed, except this bed was just compost tea. There was no fish fertilizer in the mix. So just compost tea. I'll show you some of these leaves. Oh, you'll see my shadow there. Anyways, there's a lot of dark lines in there, and in those leaves, if you can see that. So it's not taking up nutrients properly. Part of it, I think, has just been really dry. And so I'm really working on this side of the yard, trying to make this bed better. So this is just a double row. This is supposed to be dried beans for winter use, but here's one plant that actually looks pretty healthy. So anyways, gardening is a process, learning, growing, and eating. And the reason I grow my own food is so that I can provide for my family and eat better quality and better tasting vegetables. Thanks for watching. One more thing, a little surprise I found in my garden today. I think actually this might be chamomile. I'm not 100% sure, but there's one here. And there's another little guy over here. So later tonight, once it's cooler, then I'll have to dig them up. And I think I'll plunk them into my herb bed and see what happens. Oh, there you go. Take a look. Isn't that so pretty? That makes me smile.